Today is quite special because we start a new series called Meet the Maker, and we're very fortunate to have Pawan kicking it off. Your golden leg, as one can say. We hope to keep this series going with enriching conversations with young, sometimes maybe not so young makers of film and other kinds of content as well. We have Naveen Tejasvi, another young filmmaker who is on his own journey to making his first feature film and is finding ways to do that keyword that we're here for to talk about, crowdfunding. Of course, Pawan doesn't need an introduction, but I think I should introduce myself. This is one of those places where the moderator needs to speak about themselves to like say, it's okay that I'm here with a mic. My name is Lekha Naidu. I'm a theatre practitioner, and I call myself a drifting consulting drifter because I do several things. I've also dabbled a little bit in film, so I think I'm okayly equipped to talk to Pawan about his journey in cinema. So to let you know how this evening is going to go, it's going to be a little informal, and both Naveen and I will, of course, wield the mic and ask one question each, and we'll also look at the making of the film. There are short videos which are available on YouTube. You can also access them on YouTube. But here, to contextualize our conversation, we'll watch a little bit of the videos and then we'll jump into questions. But it is also open to the audience. So at any point, anybody feels that you have a question, please put your hand up and a mic will come to you. How many people are comfortable in English? Show of hands, please. Kannadadalli yaru would prefer to speak, us also to speak in Kannada. Okay, Salpa nandu Kannada salpa kashta. Naveen and Pawan will take care of that. So, right. So to begin, Naveen, I would like you to ask the first question.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಪವನ್ ಫಸ್ಟು ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್. ಯೂಶ್ವಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಟೈಮ್ ಲೈನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದೋ ಹಾಡು, ಸಿನಿಮಾ, ಕಾಲೇಜು, ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆ ಥರ. ನನಗೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳ ಹತ್ರ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನನಗೇನು ಸಿನಿಮಾದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇಲ್ದಿರೋ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಓದುವಾಗ ಲೂಸಿಯಾದ್ದು ಪ್ರಮೋಷನ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಗಾಡಿ ಬಂದಿತ್ತು ಕಾಲೇಜ್ಗೆ. ಅದು ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಏನೋ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನೋಡಿ ಜಮ್ಮ ಹಾಡು ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಆ ಹಾಡನ್ನ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಯಾವುದೋ ಇಂಟರ್ನೆಟ್ ಕೆಫೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಂತರ ಒಂದು ಕೀಪ್ಯಾಡ್ ಫೋನ್ ಇತ್ತು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಡೈಲಿ ಕೇಳ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಲೈನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೆಟ್ಟವೇರಿ ಇಳಿದು ಈಜಿ ಕಡಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕೋಟೆ ದಾಟಿ ಮೀಟಿ ಈಟಿ ಎದ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಲನುಗಳನ್ನು ಬಡಿದು ಎದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಳ ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕು ಕಡೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಫುಲ್ ಹಾಡು ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ಅದೊಂಥರ ತುಂಬ ಖುಷಿ ಇತ್ತು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು, ನಾನು ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬಂದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳು ನೋಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಾನು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಎರಡು ಕಾರಣ. ಒಂದು ಉಳಿದವ್ರ ಕಣ್ಣಂತೆ, ಮತ್ತೊಂದು ಲೂಸಿಯಾ. ನನಗದೇನೋ ಹೊಸ ಥರ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರು ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಅವಾಗ ನಂದು ಫಸ್ಟು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಪವನ್ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಸ್ಟೀಲ್ ಫ್ಲೈಯರ್ ಬೇಡ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ಗೆ. ಅದೊಂದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮು. ಆ ಕಾರಣ ಮತ್ತು ನಾವು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ನಮಗೆ ಏನೋ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಅಂತ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದು ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋಗಳು, ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋಗಳು. 2016 ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅವರು 5D ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾನ, ನಾವು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ವಿ, ಯಾವ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಇದೆ ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಪೈರಿಂಗ್ ಓಲ್ ಜನ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್. ನನ್ನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ನು, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು ತುಂಬ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅದು. ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸರಿ ಆ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಶೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮುಗಿದವ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು ಗುರು ಅನಿಸ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆಯಿಂದ ಸಂಜೆವರೆಗೆ. ಅಂಥ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕತೆ ನಾವು ಹೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೊರಟಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮೋಟಿವೇಶನ್ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ನಿಮಗೆ ಲೂಸಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಮೋಟಿವೇಶನ್ ಏನು? ಯಾಕೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು ನಾನು, ಅದೇನಾದ್ರು ಆಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದೆ ಯಾಕೆ ನಿಮಗೆ?
ಅದು ಜನ 50 ಲಕ್ಷ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. ನಿಜ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ, ಆಸ್ ಅ ರೈಟರ್, ವೆನ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ರಿಟನ್ ದ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್, ಆಸ್ ಅ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ದ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟೆಡ್, ದ ಥಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಕೇಟೆಡ್. ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ಕತೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಅದೊಂದು ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ರೆಡಿ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟಿಗೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂದಾಗ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಲೈಕ್ 20% ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ಜಾಬ್, 80% ಇಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸತಿ 80% ಇಂದಾನೇ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಆಗೋದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ, ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ನೀವು ವರ್ಕ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ದಿಸ್ 80% becomes really important. So it was many stages. I mean, once a 50 lakh ನನ್ನ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಬರೋವರೆಗೂ at many points I thought this will not happen. But ಅದು ಯಾವಾಗ ನನ್ನ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಬಂತು, then it became, probably it comes from the way we are all brought up.
I never had 50 lakh in my account in my life. So ನನ್ನ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ನನಗೆ ಅದರ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದು probably less than 10% of that 50 lakh. So it was too much pressure, as though ನಾನು ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರನೋ ಲೋನ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ and they will put me behind bars ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರ. So I think the motivation after that was that now I have to do this. Now I have to figure a way to do this. So everything that you see as a making, or all the innovations that you see, was as much as creatively driven, it was also driven by the commitment that I have to now make this, and I figured it out in the process.
Pawan, the crux of this conversation is the evolution of crowdfunding. 10 years ago, a decade has passed, and have you changed as a filmmaker? How much have you changed? Of course, one changes, but how much do you think you've changed as a filmmaker, going from like a DIY sort of space where you're literally like making stuff happen with scraps, and now actually having a budget? Is your approach to making something happen changed?
No, deep down I think crave for that DIY process. It is very interesting, very engaging. But I think as I've aged, I think it's something that age does to people maybe. I see that if somebody says, hey, here is your 20 crores, now make the film. See, the thing is, you get really burnt out. When you see Lucia, what you see is that I announced it in December 2012 on my blog, and the film came out September 2013, but I was still working on the film the whole of 2014, which nobody knew. Everybody thought,
Hey, why is he not making something? But the burnout is in this kind of process. It is, you get really tired when I was literally handling accounts, finances, and then I would finish shooting, come back home and do backups of the thing myself at home, and then wake up. I used to drive the car, take all the equipment. So that, and eventually crowdfunding seems very easy. I don't know what it is now when I look back. But there's a lot of promises that you would have made to all these people who have funded you, and you've got to execute them. And that took me a year to it was very easy when I wrote the blog that, hey, I'll give all of you a CD, I'll give you a DVD. It's only after the film I realized, how do I give it to them? The logistics is not easy at all. And I was a filmmaker. I was not into figuring these things out. And I thought the world was a very understanding space. So I would start getting emails like, hey, I still haven't got the DVD, like how you would write to a customer. And there is nobody else answering those emails other than me, and I have to be like, hey, this is your shipping order. And I would check the shipping order and say, this is right now there. And sometimes after 45 days, that would come back to me. So I've answered all these angry mails. I've answered. So it's a completely different story. I should someday make a film about making of Lucia, like a feature. It has so much more drama in it. Yeah. I think some of the episodes do actually show that, the making of the film.
Now, do people have DVD players at all now? That's the question. To frame the CD. Any questions from the audience? Or we'll watch the first bit.
ಅಮ್ಮ ಆ ಹುಡುಗಿ ಏನ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಕಣಮ್ಮ, ಸುಮ್ಕೆ ಬೆಳ್ಳಗಳು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಇವನು ಒಳ್ಳೆ
ಸೊ ಲೂಸಿಯಾದು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಶೋ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 2011 ಇದೇ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟ್ನ ಬರೆಯೋಕ್ಕೆ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 2013 ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಶೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ 2 ವರ್ಷದ ಜರ್ನಿ ಹೇಗಿತ್ತು ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ, ಏನೇನು ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಪ್ಟು 100 days ಓಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಗಾಯಿತು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಮೂಲಕ ತಿಳಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಸ್ನಿಪೆಟ್ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಬನ್ನಿ. ರೋಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾಸ್, ರೋಲಿಂಗ್, ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್. ಉಲ್ಟಾ ತಿರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಹೋಗಿ ಭರತ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅವನನ್ನು ತಲ್ಲಿ, ಅವನಿಂದ ಫೈಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅವನನ್ನು ಸತೀಶ್ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಬೆಂಡ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ. ಎದ್ದೇಳಿ ಸತೀಶ್, ಎದ್ದೇಳಿ. ಬೆಂಡ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬಂಡಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬೆಟ್ಟದ ಹತ್ರ ಲುಕ್. ಶೂಟ್.
ಸೂಪರ್, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾರ್ಡಿನರಿ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು. ಸಿನೆಪೋಲಿಸಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇದೊಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಥರ ಹೋಮ್ ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ಇದು ನಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಲೂಸಿಯಾದು ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ ಡೇಟಿಂದ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಷ್ಟದ ಕೆಲಸ ಜ್ಞಾಪಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 27th ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂದರೆ, ನನ್ನ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅಂತಲೇ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಸೊ ನನ್ನ ಬ್ಲಾಗಲ್ಲಿ ಟೈಟಲ್ ಬಂದು ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಅನೌನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ದಿನ ಆವತ್ತು. ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 2011 ನಾನೊಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಟಸ್ ಅಪ್ಡೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ.
ಚಾನ್ಸೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಮೂವಿ ಬರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಚಾನ್ಸೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಐ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಟು ಸೇ ಐ ಹೇಟ್ ಇಟ್. ನಂಗೆ ಅದು ಹೆಸರೇ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಅ ಫ್ಲಾಪ್. ಸೊ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಡೂ ಇಟ್.
ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ನನಗೆ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ, ಒಂದಿನ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಊಟ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಲ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಎದ್ದು ಯಾರ ಜೊತೆನೋ ಡೋರ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿತ್ತು. ಅದು ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಲಾಗಿತ್ತಾ ಅಥವಾ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಎದ್ದು ಯಾರ ಜೊತೆನೋ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕ್ಲಾರಿಟಿ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಈ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕತೆ ಬರೀಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದು.
ನಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ಹೆಸರು ಲೂಸಿಯಾ.
ಇದು ಬರ್ದು ಒಂದು ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ತರ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಡ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ರೆಡಿ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನನ್ನ ಮೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಯೋಗರಾಜ್ ಭಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸುಬ್ರಹ್ಮಣ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ರಫ್ ಆಗಿ ನರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ.
ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂಡೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು 90 ಲಕ್ಷ ಜನ ಅವರಂತೆ. ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಕುರಿ ಮಂದೆ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ.
ಈ ಟಾರ್ಚ್ ಅವನು ಅಂತ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ರೀಸನ್, ನಾನು ಪಂಚರಂಗಿಲಿ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ರೋಡಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಆ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ನೋಡಿದವರು ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು US ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಮ್ಮಿ ಚಟ್ನಿ ಪುಡಿ, ಸಾಂಬಾರ್ ಪುಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳ್ಸಿದ್ರು. ಆಗ ಪ್ಯಾರ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಸ್ಟಾರಿಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಇದು ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದು.
ನನ್ನ ಕನಸುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೊಬ್ಬ ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಯಸ್ತೀನಿ ಗೌರೀಶ್.
ಸೊ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಡ್ರೀಮ್ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಎರಡು ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ರೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಅದೊಂದು ಹುಡುಗಿ ಹೆಸರು ಇರಬಹುದು.
ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ?
ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಚೀಸಿ ನೇಮ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಪಿಲ್ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರೈಸೇಷನ್ ಬಂದು
ಒಳ್ಳೆತನ ವೀಕ್ನೆಸ್ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಮುಟ್ಟಾಳ್ತನ.
ಅವ್ರ ಸ್ಕೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಬ್ಯುಸಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು.
ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಹೊಡಿಯಲ್ಲ ಅಂದಿಲ್ಲ, ಹಂಗೆ ಕಿರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ.
ನೀನು ಕಿರ್ಚ್ಬೇಕು. ದಿಗಂತ್ ಜೊತೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಗೆ 3 ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ, ಮನಸಾರೆ, ಪಂಚರಂಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಲೈಫು ಇಷ್ಟೇನೆ. ದಿಗಂತ್ ಜೊತೆನೆ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಈ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ನ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನನಗೆ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಈಸಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದೊಂದು ಇತ್ತು.
ಬ್ರದರ್, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಒಂದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ ತಮ್ಮ.
ಬಟ್ ದಿಗಂತದ ಸ್ಕೆಡ್ಯೂಲ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಒಂದು 2-3 ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಸೈಮಲ್ಟೇನಿಯಸ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಡೆಡ್ ಎಂಡ್ ಅಂತ. ನೀವೇನೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಈ ತರ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ನ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ ನನಗೆ ಕನ್ವಿನ್ಸ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. These are the kind of films and theatre work that I made. If you look at the posters, you can see that they don't sell. The industry never considered them as the big hits. So you're constantly told by the industry that this is the kind of film you have to make. So the question is, how do I survive in this market?
Last year, the person you love.
In many ways, Lucia walked so that several other films could run, especially when it comes to social media and promotions. What has been your relationship and with social media, and has it evolved? Have you stepped back from it? I know it all started with the blog. Do you still write it, or has it taken another form?
Social media has seen the journey of a terrible marriage for me. It started off amazingly well, but I think it's the case with everybody off late. It's very interesting how I think something like this, now that I'm 11 years older than I was when Lucia started. It was a time when everything went right for this project to happen. I mean, I could probably do this film better, script could have been better, and if I had pitched the same thing today, it wouldn't work. So when you look at the phrase crowdfunding, it's got crowd and the funding. It's got nothing to do with me or the script. So it was a time when Facebook had just kind of become a lot more popular in India. And generally there was a buzz of crowdfunding all over the world. Kickstarter was a website which was really popular. But I didn't know the phrase crowdfunding. When I posted the blog, it was a response to some of the comments from some audience member who had seen Life Ushtene, who said that, hey, can we pitch in some money? And I said, okay, I was jobless after Life Ushtene, no one gave me any work. So I was just sitting at home, I had internet and free speech. So I just wrote a blog and I said, okay, so if somebody wants to pitch in money, what can happen? And 3 days later, somebody said, hey, do you know what you're doing is called crowdfunding? So till then I didn't even know that there was a thing for this. And then I started researching, and then I said, oh, Kickstarter and all that. But then I saw that all these websites, the way they function, I knew it wouldn't work for the kind of audience that I was interacting with. Back then there was no UPI. Back then there was, credit cards. Not many were having credit cards here. Or the ones who were comfortable. I don't think Kickstarter will even work in India at that point, the way the credit card works. So I figured I'll do it myself. So I created this blog, and I just put up, hey, this is the chunk. And I used to write a lot, like big chunks, like 2-page long blogs and all that. And it's very interesting that people used to read, because if money did come in, it means that they used to read those blogs and be moved by the content. I don't think anyone does that anymore. So it was social media where if you say something, the conversations were, either saying, I agree, or there would be more than, let me now find what is wrong in what you have put. That wasn't the tone that was there back then. It was more like, hey, let's collaborate, let's come together. The energy was a lot more positive. So I think it was a very lucky thing that happened to me, that this idea came to me back in 2012. Because I'm sure if there is somebody who's younger than me this year has a better idea, I don't think this is the route to go. Because it didn't work for me 2 years later, which I knew, and I would tell people that, listen, crowdfunding won't work because now I've understood how the crowd works. And it worked because back in 2011, 2012 early, I was an underdog. And it's very interesting. People think, oh, he had amazing nothing. I knew nothing. I had a simple blog which had a very cheesy name called pawantheactor.com, and I used to direct and write. What worked was that people somewhere identified that, hey, this guy's made a feature and we fairly like it, and but he's struggling to get his next film made. I think somewhere this is everybody's story. They all have aspirations to do something, but the world and the way it works stops them from doing it. So they all saw themselves in me, and when I said, hey, I'm trying to do something like this, I don't know that 1,200 people is the number of people who eventually put in money, but the big chunk came from 110. And the most interesting thing being that when I wrote the blog, I was looking at $250 per head, because I thought that's something somebody is willing to lose. And my agenda was that I'll make the film, and at 250 rupees I'll send them the link, a Google Drive link or something that they could watch. That's it. I had no other ideas of what it eventually became. I just wanted to tell the story. And then I said, okay, let me try 500 where I'll give them a CD. And then I put, okay, 1,000 I'll give you a DVD, and 2,500 I'll give you a DVD and 5,000 I'll give you a Blu-ray. I had no clue how much it cost to make a Blu-ray, but I just knew it can be made. So I just put that, and before posting, I got a little greedy. I said, what if somebody wants to give more money to make this film? So just there I said, okay, you could also come on board as producers or co-producers with 2.5 lakh, 50,000 and 25,000. And I posted it. Few hours later, I come back to an SMS saying that 2.5 lakh has come to your account. And I got scared. Like, I'm like, 2.5 lakh, my producer hasn't paid me for my previous film for making the whole film. And then I get an email from a lady called Shilpa who's in UK. And I think I've like always preserved that email because she said, hey, I read your blog, it felt very nice, it felt truthful, and here is a little bit. And that I did not expect 2.5 lakh to be the first thing that would come. I thought 250 rupees would be the first thing that would come. And so then it just went on after that. And in 22 days, I had 50 lakh. And then everybody around who knew, I'm like, now how will you do this thing? Like, how are you going to pull this off? And I said, we don't know, but let's figure it. And so each day was waking up to some new idea. Each sequence was waking up to, okay, now I have this sequence. Now how do I do this? And I would say theatre came in so handy. It's great that Vijay Padaki sir is here, and I'm someone from theatre, learning body theatre. The Spot, summer project on theatre, which is one of the most prestigious thing to happen in Bangalore. And I would go back and credit Bangalore Little Theatre even today for making a program like that available. Because it put me through a kind of training when I was just 19 years old, which kind of put in that hey, you can do amazing things without anything. Because we had no props. I'm sure there was no budget that was given, and Sibu, Arif, Rajesh, who were the faculty back then for us. And they would, give you a stage and make you entertain the audience for an hour. So I think deep down my training started that you can do anything with nothing. And my theatre journey has also been the same. So I guess I came in from that experience, that sort of a confidence that, we'll figure this and do something. Take a question from please.
Yeah, Pawan, good evening. So before Lucia Munche, whatever ನಮ್ಮ OTT ಅನ್ನೋದು ಏನು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ ಮುಂಚೆ you started home talkies, especially for abroad to market Kannada films. So I think initially, apart from DVD, Blu-ray, you want to make this Lucia to home talkies, a league platform. So what was the game changer to the theatrical release? What is winning London Indian Film Festival Award? Or what was the game changer to go for theatrical release?
So for those who don't know about home talkies, so basically I'm not this visionary who was thinking for the industry. I'm a simple filmmaker who wanted everybody on this planet to watch my film. So when Life Ishtane was made, and I figured that it, maybe about 2 lakh people at the most would have seen the film. And then you're like, hey, Kannada population itself is 6 crore. Why are only 2 lakh people watching it? And I am proud of this film that I've made. So how do I get this film out there? And because I am fairly familiar with how internet and talking to people on social media. So then, just by searching, I started figuring that hey, you can actually put up a feature film, and people can pay the money like there's a lock, and when they pay the money, the lock opens, and people can watch the film. So and where does this money go? The money, like 20% goes to the guy who's offering the service, and 80% goes to the filmmaker. I said, this is it. I mean, this is amazing. You don't have to now depend on a distributor, anybody. You can do this. So I tried it with Life Ishtane, and it did give me great results. I reached out to people in various countries. I would wake up every day and just keep refreshing my browser to see where all people were watching it. Some strange country names which I'd never heard, and there somebody would have paid me $5 and watched Life Ishtane. And so then I said, hey, then why don't I replicate this for the whole industry? And then people told me, there is something called as Netflix. So, because in India there was no Netflix back then, and I had no idea how Netflix even looks. But coincidentally, whatever me and my friend Surya whatever we figured on our own using WordPress, we didn't even have just the two of us sitting all night at my place. Whatever ways we created the website, thumbnails, which is very similar to how Netflix was looking. But then we just started asking people, do you want to put this film online? Anyway, that journey, and I was very confident that if I could make 4-5 lakh on Life-Ushtene, then maybe with a new film, I could hit, 50 with good reach and everything. And so the idea was that I'm going to make the film and just put it up on home talkies, where people can either buy and watch, or if they're prepaid, then they just watch. But as the film went on, which took us 18 months to finish, we kept talking about it. We kept collaborating with so many new people, and everybody, I know it's very strange, because I'm sure that sort of a crowd movement is not going to happen now. Everybody started owning the film. So on social media today, it's very difficult to ask your friend to share something. Back then, people would just, my posts, if you go back, you all can go check if you want. Go back to 2012 and see the post, there would be 200 shares, 300 shares on big blog posts. And why would people do that? There was nothing called as paid marketing, none of it was just organic. So somewhere people owned this journey. And they kind of created so much buzz that once, like he mentioned, the film got picked up on its own again. I just posted the trailer on YouTube. Naman from London Indian Film Festival wrote to me saying, do you want to be part of the festival? And I was shocked. I said, hey, I've made a commercial film which has 5 songs in it, and I don't think, because festival, we have another idea about festival. But it went there, and again, Kannada audience in UK, they came in, filled up the 2 shows, got us the award. All that sort of took it to the theatrical release.
As you know, Karnataka is an IT hub, so half our young population is outside India. So how do you now deliver the film to them?
Facebook ಆಂಟಿಗಳೇ, ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಅಂಕಲ್ಗಳೇ, ನೋಡಲು ಮರೆಯದಿರಿ, ಮರೆತು ನಿರಾಶರಾಗದಿರಿ. ಲಾಗ್ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಹಿಂದೆ ನೋಡಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ನೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ.
ಇದೇ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಪ್ಯಾರಲಲ್ಲಿ, ನಾನು ಮತ್ತೆ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆ ಸೂರ್ಯ ಅಂತ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾವಿಬ್ರು ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ವ್ಯೂಯಿಂಗ್ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ hometalkies.com ಅಂತ ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ.
ಲೀಗಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ಸ್ ನ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಹೊಸ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ.
ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ರೆಂಟಲ್ ಎಷ್ಟು, ಪ್ರೊಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ರೆಂಟಲ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದರದ್ದು ಟೋಟಲ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಎವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಥಿಯೇಟರ್ ರೆಂಟಲ್ ಅಂತ $400 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಪ್ರೊಜೆಕ್ಷನ್ ರೆಂಟಲ್ 35 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ -34 ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸೊ ಇದೇ ರೀಸನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್ ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಅದೇ ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ 95% ಆಫ್ ದಟ್ ಮನಿ ಒಬ್ಬ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದವನಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿರೋದು. ಈ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್ ಇಂದ ಒಂದು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಬೆಳೀತು. ಇದನ್ನ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ನನಗೆ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಹೇಗೆ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ರೀಸನ್ ಈ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್. ಒಂದಿಷ್ಟು ಜನ ತುಂಬಾ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಕ್ಯಾಶುಯಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು, ನಾವುಗಳೇ ಯಾಕೆ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಈ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು ಅನ್ನೋ ತರ ಥಾಟ್ ಬಂತು. 2007 ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದೇ ತರದ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ನ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ಒಂದು 10,000 ಬೇಕಿತ್ತಾಗ, 100 ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ DVD ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಯಾರು ಒಬ್ರು ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇದು ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿತ್ತು.
5 ವರ್ಷ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ತಲೆ ಕೆಡ್ಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ.
ಹೀಗೆ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ರಾತ್ರಿ 2:30-3 ಗಂಟೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಸಡನ್ಲಿ ಹಿ ಸೆಡ್, ಯು ನೋ ವಾಟ್, ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರೈ ಕ್ರೌಡ್ ಫಂಡಿಂಗ್. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಲೂಸಿಯಾಗೆ, ನೋಡೋಣ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ.
100 days ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದರೂ 50 lakh ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿರೋದು ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಒಂದು 15 ನಿಮಿಷಕ್ಕೇನೆ ನನ್ನ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಗೆ 2.5 lakh ಬಂತು.
ಅವ್ರು ನನಗೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಕೂಡ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರು, 2.5 lakh ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸ್ವೆಟಿಂಗ್, ಪವನ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸ್ವೆಟಿಂಗ್. ಈಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಓಕೆ, ಐ ವಿ ಶ್ಯೂರ್, ನಾನು ಇನ್ನೂ ರೆಡಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಬ್ಲಾಗ್ ಬರೆದೆ, ಬಟ್ 1 hour ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಅದ್ರ 2.5 lakh ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯೂಜ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್. ವಿ ವರ್ ನಾಟ್ ರೆಡಿ.
ಅದು ಶಿಲ್ಪಾ ಅನ್ನೋರು UK ಇಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಒಂದು ಮೇಲ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆನೆ ಒಂದು ವಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 8-9 lakh ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. 10 days of raising funds, we had raised about 8 lakh or something. So there was one guy who wrote a blog or a mail which was trying to say that how this whole idea was a scam. So at that point, what I did was I took that mail and published it on the Lucia website. You know, usually you try to hide these things, right? So instead I published the mail and I answered each of those questions. And as soon as I answered, in the next 5 days, we had 15 more lakhs coming into the account. ನನಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಭಯ ಇತ್ತು. ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಅದು ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಮೂಡಲ್ಲಿ 50 lakh ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ.
$50 ಲಕ್ಷ ಫಿಲಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಧೈರ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಅನೌನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. ನನಗೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇದನ್ನ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು. ಯಾಕೆಂದರೆ ಗಾಳಿಪಟ ಸರ್ಕಸ್ ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಶೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಸ್ಸೇ ಆವರೇಜ್ ಪರ್ ಡೇ 1 lakh ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಆಗ 2008 ಈ 2012 ಇವರು $50 ಲಕ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಲಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನನಗೆ ಆಶ್ಚರ್ಯ.
ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆ ಮೂವಿ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಸೆನೂ ಇತ್ತು, ಬಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಅಯ್ಯೋ ತುಂಬ ಹೆದರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನೂ ಆಗದೆ ಇರಲಪ್ಪ, ದುಡ್ಡೆಲ್ಲ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡೋಣ, ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲೋ.
ಇದೇ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಫಿಲಮ್ನ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಶೂಟಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ಯಾಟರ್ನಲ್ಲೇ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಸುಮಾರು 2.5 ಕೋಟಿ ಖರ್ಚಾಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು.
ನಾನು ಲೈಫ್ ಇಷ್ಟೇನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಹಾಡು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೆ, ಕನಸಿನ ಹೊಸ ಪುಟ ಅಂತ. ನಾನು ದಿಗಂತ್ ಇಬ್ಬರೇ ದುಬೈಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಒಂದು 5D ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು 3-4 days ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು. ಅದನ್ನ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನನಗೆ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಈ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ನ ನಾವು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 5D ನಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು.
One of the biggest challenges of shooting Lucia was primarily the fact that we shot it with a small camera. The Canon 5D Mark II camera, which is nothing but a regular camera which shoots stills, like any wedding photographer, if you look at a journalist, photojournalist. And the only difference is that the same camera can also shoot high quality video. So we had to make use of that camera to shoot this film, just to make sure that we overcame the constraints of a regular film shoot. That's it, we have
beautiful invention.
Seriously, for $3,000 we have like a steady cam, one handheld rig, no mount. I wasn't too sure if I could really pull this off with whatever budget he was saying, but he seemed so confident that he could do it, and I thought, okay, I just followed what his gut feeling, and I just said, okay, fine, let's do this film.
ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ಸ್, ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೆಂಗೆ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದ್ರು ಪವನ್. ಅದನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮತ್ತೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಷಿಯನ್ಸ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮವ್ರನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೊಸಬರನ್ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಸೊ ಆ ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಶುರುವಾದಾಗ ಅನ್ನಿಸ್ತು ಓಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ.
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸಿದ್ಧಾರ್ಥ್ ಕೇಳಿದಿನು ಇದನ್ನ ಈ ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ 5D ತೆಗಿಯೋದು ಅಂತ. ನನಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇರೋದೇ ದುಡ್ಡು ಇಷ್ಟು, ಹೆಂಗಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಿ ತೆಗಿಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ವಿ.
Is the lens okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Training sort of instinctively builds you to prep. The audience will never know what went wrong. So for me, that's what I meant. There were times when there would be a scene which I've written in a certain way, and we would have no money to shoot it. And then I would have asked for, say, X, I would have got Y. And then you bring your writer back and say, now that I have this, now how do you still take the scene, the core theme of the scene forward? And I think, now I look back and I feel somewhere the whole film was already playing in my head. So any changes I wanted to do, it was very easy, and there was no producer who was going to ask me why you've written something, you're shooting something else, and so there was that freedom was amazing. That freedom which I enjoyed when I was doing theater, producing my own plays. And also in theater, once the show starts, it's an actor's medium, right? So so I felt like that. I felt like I could. Nobody knew the whole film would turn out like this. In fact, most of the actors, the DOP, everybody understood the film on the first day, first show. Until then, nobody sort of an idea of what it was getting to be. You have to. There's a nice difference now that 10 years have passed, and my previous film was like close to 20 crores, and this was 50 lakh. When I made my most recent film, if I needed 300 people in the background, I would get 300 people in the background. But in Lucia, I wouldn't get 3 people. So what I saw when I stepped back and see the process is that because I had written 300 people on the script 6 months ago, and everybody functioned to bring those 300 people there, I shot it the way it was written. But in Lucia, I think the constraints made me look beyond, because there were no 300 people. So I had to shoot the scene. Then something new came up. So it's just that somehow it was meant to happen. So I did not panic. I did not give up. I figured ways to finish it. Yeah.
ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ತುಂಬ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಪರ್ಸ್ನಲ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಈಗ ನಾನು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸರಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಅದು ಪವನ್ ಅವ್ರ ಫಿಲ್ಮು. ನನ್ನ 2ನೇ ಸರಿ ನನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಮೇಟ್ಸ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದಾಗ ಅದು ನನ್ನ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ನಗ್ತಲ್ಲಿ ನಗ್ತಾರ, ನನ್ಗಳು ಬಂದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಳ್ತಾರ, ಅವ್ರ ಮುಖ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ ನಾನು. ಅದೇ ತುಂಬ ಜನರಿಗೆ ಇದು ಪರ್ಸ್ನಲ್. ಈಗ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಒಬ್ಬರು ವಿವೇಕ್ ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ. ಅವರು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಈ ಥರ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅವರೊಂದು ಫೋಲ್ಡ್ರ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರು. ಆ ಫೋಲ್ಡ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು 2012ರಿಂದ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅದ್ರದ್ದು ಫೋಟೋಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಲೂಸಿಯಾದೆಲ್ಲ ಪೋಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇದೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪಿಚ್ ಡೆಕ್ ಇದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ
ಅಫಿಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾಕರ್.
ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಮಧ್ಯೆ 4 ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಫೋನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅದು ತುಂಬ ಪರ್ಸ್ನಲ್. ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡೆ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಅವ್ರ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ತುಂಬ ಹತ್ತಿರದ್ದು ಅಂತ ಫೀಲ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಲೂಸಿಯಾನ ಹಿಂದೆ ತಿರುಗಿ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಹೇಗೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಈಗ 10 ವರ್ಷ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಏನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯನ ನಂಗೆ ಆಗಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದರೆ ನಾನು ಬೇರೆ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ತುಂಬ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾನೇ ಹಾಳಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಅದು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದಿದ್ದೇನೆ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ಗುಡ್ ಫೇಸ್. The fact that like a child you're just exploring, you're playing with each and every tool that 5D camera ಎಷ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಷ್ಟು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಈಗ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಮಚ್ ಆ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳೋಷ್ಟು ದುಡ್ಡು 3 ದಿನದಲ್ಲಿ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ವುಡ್ ಸೇ ನಥಿಂಗ್. ಲುಕಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕನೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್. ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮೊನ್ನೆ 4-5 months ago we did 10 years of Lucia show, special show. It is only in that show I could see the film like an audience. Like I didn't know why the film was, connecting to some people. I was only seeing, oh, that little light is not working, this was not cleaned up. The only mistakes. For years together, I could only see things that were, haunting me as to why that thing was not framed correctly. It's only now when I saw, I said, oh, so these emotions are working. This is what worked for the audience, and this is why it is so close to them. ಆದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ನಾವು ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ದಿನನೂ ವಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ನಾವು ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಯು ಸಿ ಇಟ್, ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೇಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಅಂತ. Because of the way the process of the film was, and because, like I said, social media was more engaging in a positive way, we kind of constantly, it was not a marketing trick, it was just what came to me naturally, to keep telling people that, hey, we are doing this. And I think our constant posts, videos, and also the number of people who joined. In fact, there are many interesting episodes. We may not be able to see it today, but go to YouTube. In my channel, there are all 22 episodes. They're more dramatic and fun than the film. And ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನನಗನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಕೊಲಾಬ್ರೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಲೈಕ್ ಆ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ನೀವು ಹಿಂದೆ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ದಟ್ ದೆರ್ ವಾಸ್ ಅನ್ ಆನಿಮೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೋಮ್ ಟಾಕೀಸ್, ದ ಆಟೋ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಇವನ್ ನೋ ದೋಸ್ ಗೈಸ್ ನಾವು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ಡಿಂಟ್ ಪೇ ಫಾರ್ ಇಟ್. ಅವರೇ ಬಂದರು, ಸ್ಟುಡಿಯೋ ಇಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಂತ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇ ಸೆಡ್, ಹೇ ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ, ನಾವು ವಿ ಡೂ ದಿಸ್, ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ ಅ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಫಾರ್ ಯು. And Purna Chandra said, "Nanond hard madkodtini," and somebody else sang for it. So it was like people just coming in and creating that. If you today have to do that, it costs quite a lot to just get some video like that done. So yeah, it is a process which I hope we all can look back and learn the goodness from. That's what I would say. Looking back, I only see there was so much goodness amongst everybody.
It really was a moment in time, like a flash.
ಒಂದು ಫಾಲೋ ಅಪ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್, ಈಗ ಅದು 10 ವರ್ಷ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲೋದ್ರೂ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಅಂತ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿರಲ್ವ, ನಿಮಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಟೆಕ್ಟಾಕಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರ ಬರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ದ ಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಅಂತ, ಯಾವಾಗ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಅನಿಸಿದ್ಯಾ ಇದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ ಆ ಥರ ಎಲ್ಲ?
I mean, every time ivattu hinge yaro karadidare, it feels like, okay, I'm somewhere, my work is still relevant to somebody anta ansutte. My own work, yeah, I mean, I think for me, now I see the whole process when we are still talking about crowdfunding, which is great, which is interesting, which is an amazing social experiment that happened. But somewhere as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, as an artist, I go back and see that a lot of things have worked at a very art level, at a creative, maybe people still liking it is the thing. But I sometimes feel that the film should be talked beyond crowdfunding, beyond these things, because it has some magical things that happen without me knowing. Some creative decisions, I'm saying staging a scene or a single dialogue. Like he mentioned, some of the amazing lines I've written on the set, like 30 minutes before the shot I've written it. And I'm only amazed now. I'm like, wow, how did that happen? Because I don't know. So I don't want to take the credit for it. So it happened. And yeah, so I would say that it's not just the making, which is great. It's also the art part, which has turned out to be something interesting.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, that the legacy of Lucia, then the memory of Lucia has been about this almost impossible thing that like everybody came together, this crowdfunding happened, but within that art part that you want people to remember, is there anything specific that you feel that, oh, martog bididare, or it didn't like latch on?
No, I wouldn't say martog bididare. Maybe it's also unfair. So when you go to a restaurant or somewhere and you have a good meal, the audience or the person who's eating, he'll come back and say, "Yeah, I had a good meal." I think that's what the chef needs to be happy about. Not like, okay, tell me how much salt was there or how much this was good. Maybe somewhere I'm becoming but as at least film community of film enthusiasts or someone, there's so much to learn, because I go back and learn from it. I sometimes just play a scene to go back and say, okay, what was happening to be able to do this? Can I get back to it? So my favorite till date, which amazes me, is the big interview scene with Satish and Gaurish Akki, which is basically the big scene which changes the whole film's narrative. And I don't know if I can write that scene again, because when you I mean, at least filmmakers here or enthusiasts, you should go back and see how many words are there in each line. And sometimes there are 5 words, 6 words, but they are like speaking chapters. One line is enough to say the loneliness of the guy and everything that he's been through just in one line. And I'm like, wow, how did it happen? So I'm saying at that level, if someone goes back and sees, it is something that I am trying to learn from.
Yeah, I watched it recently again, and the emotional core, I mean, I unfortunately or fortunately watch it as a cynic, watch film cinema as a cynic. And the emotional core is as strong when I watched it the first time. And that's something.
No, the interesting part is we don't know how that happened. It's not like I have the whole trick ready, then I would replicate it all the time. It's just that at that point, the instincts made me do some things and it feels like it worked.
Going back to you starting from theatre and coming into, and you now exist in mainstream cinema, if one may call that. The milieu, the kind of interactions, the vocabulary, the culture is almost diametrically opposite. And how do you reconcile with that? Was it a shock? Because for me, sometimes it is. The way you speak to somebody who's a film person is as if I'm speaking to somebody who may not be able to understand my language at all. So is that something, or is it?
I think I function just by myself, mostly with my own set of people with whom I could resonate for that reason. I still feel I'm like, December I did my play, and if 2-3 months later I'm making a film, for me the process is just the same. The way I talk to my team, or the ones who are going to join later, or the ones it's still exactly the way I used to collaborate on theater. For me, at least in the way I have done my projects, nothing has changed, or how cinema is viewed differently, and it's always been about today's. There is a lot of economics that is definitely there. There's so much money and responsibility too much about how you spend that money. That's like a lot. But other than that, how you collaborate with all the creative people, for me, feels the same, in fact.
Yeah, I have a question. Pawan, I remember when we were part of a theater group, and one of the most common things that you would do as an actor was improvise, and you love improvisation. So I have two questions. How much of the improvisation part of you as an actor, as a performer, continued to follow you as a filmmaker? Were you able to identify that? And if so, then what percentage of improvisation happened in Lucia while shooting? Because on paper you have the script, but when you're beginning to shoot, there are moments of improvisation that happen. So how much percentage? That's the first question. Second question is, when, over a period of time, as you've grown as a filmmaker, there are more and more budgets that are coming in. So how much compromise do you have to make for your creativity, for your improvisation? Because now the stakes are very high. So those are the two questions. Thank you.
Yeah, Lucia had like lots of improvs, which is why I said there was no producer, there was nobody that I was answerable to. And so if I wrote something 6 months ago before the project is sort of greenlit, then I was changing things in the morning. I would change something while. So there are some, if I could have shown the film, I would have paused and shown you some scenes where some decisions were done while I was looking through the camera, and I felt, hey, this cuts very differently if I change this. And I would just probably consult, and if my team still says no and my gut says yes, I would still go do it, because nobody is there to ask. So, but as the budgets become bigger, as you have, instead of 5 people crew, you have like a 50 people crew, and then 200 people on the set constantly, it does become tricky, especially if you're a filmmaker who wants to stick by plans and budgets. There are filmmakers, which probably works on a larger scale, I haven't got that yet, who have spent 20 lakh for the day's shoot, and in the morning they see something and they say, hey, I don't like this color, let's call it off. So somehow that hasn't come to me. I would probably think of, okay, how, because I probably, because of the kind of theater where we are very responsible, it comes in our gene to be very responsible for the money we are spending. So I would look at how can I creatively make this better. In fact, it was very interesting how on Lucia, if I go and I need a space like this, I wouldn't get it. I would go and change something in the script. But when we were looking for locations for Dhoomam, and I would come to a set like, or a location like this, and the line producer would say, yeah, this is 5 lakh per day. And my mind would immediately think of how do I change this? And my DOP would say, don't change anything. We have the money. We have the money. Don't change anything. Stick to the location. Stick to the script. So it would come to me as an instinct to do sometimes more economic. And also a lot in Lucia, all the actors were available to me all the time. And so if I do something, there was a time when there was a Bangalore Bandh, and I had all the equipment lying in my house. So I called up Satish and said, let's just go to Majestic and all that, and let me take shots of you alone in the city, because it was a Bangalore Bandh. We wouldn't get this empty Majestic area where you're walking. And we just went on my scooty, with the bag and him and me riding, and we went to, and we were, trying to avoid the main roads where the cops would catch us. And there was no DOP, nobody, just me and Satish. Now imagine you getting this idea and you call up Fahad and say, hey Fahad, come, let's go do this. So that won't happen. You can't do this on a bigger budget. You have to stick to what you have written. You have to stick to what's been given to them as a schedule. So there are such constraints, which is why after every big project that I've attempted, like I did a Netflix series, and that was most it had I was like literally chained from all places to do that. And after every such thing, I would want to come back and do something like this. And since this is so complicated in doing, I go back and do theater for a while. Theater gives me that freedom again. But yeah, it's quite different on these two scales.
Yeah. Sanjay here. I would like to start with 1 minute trivia or a personal trivia. So in 2016, we had a Smita Patil Fest here, and we had got Shyam Bangal. And when we were all talking about this, and then just Titi had released, and then we were just talking about how new age movies are coming in India, Karnataka and all that. So and that's when I was mooting the point that, okay, this is how India's first crowdfunded movie has come and all that. And then as incidentally he said, Manthan was the first, India's first crowdfunded movie. And apparently it turned out to be the largest viewed movie in the history of Indian cinema, because they made it a compulsory viewing in China as well as in Russia. So in terms of number of people. So my question to you is that, have you kept, and he was very proud of that. It was not the amount or the money earned, but the sheer number of people who had viewed it. So I just wanted to check with you, of course, how, having made that movie and all that, money is one part of it, monetary benefit, versus how many people. Have you kept a tab of approximately how many people have viewed it? And considering a mainstream, a hit or a super hit movie, how many people would have seen it? So do you have any kind of thing, or does that matter to you, or?
I think I don't have a tab and check on those, but it is kind of officially not viewed, but it has reached all the film enthusiasts through pirated copies, and it's on through torrents and stuff. Officially, the film is sort of in a graveyard situation, wherein all the rights were given off to Sun TV, who have OTT platform, which not many do really go subscribe, and there's no subtitles on it. So it's also, no matter how many times I want them to add subtitles, they refuse to add subtitles. So it's just stuck there with all the rights with them. So which is why you will probably, when you Google Lucia, you will barely find. As an artist, I think all the artists here, filmmakers, they will agree with me when I say that at the core, when we create something, we just want the whole world to see it. Like that comes naturally. I mean, the whole reason why our home talk is started was because I wanted people to see Life Ishtane, like as many as I can. Even now, I mean, if you see, for various reasons, Dhoomam is still not so easily available, and I'm still every day calling the producer and saying, though it's not that if people view I get more money or anything, I get nothing. But I just, as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, the dream is that the film should be viewed by as many as possible. So that is, I think, like you said, Shamsa's story, it is definitely more than the money, it is how many saw it. That's so important, yeah. It just feels good. It's some kind of, I think the audience watching it is, for an artist, some sort of a validation, I guess. So it feel good that somebody saw what you wanted to tell them. They heard what you wanted to tell them.
ಒಂದು ಫಾಲೋಅಪ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ನು, ಈಗ ನಾವು ಸುಮಾರು ಸಾರಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ನಾವು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮೇಕರ್ಗಳು ಜನರು ಇನ್ನೂ ದಡ್ಡರಾಗೇ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನ ಗೆಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ನಾವು ಪಾಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಲೂಸಿ ಹತ್ರ ಸುಮಾರು ಸಿನಿಮಾಗಳನ್ನು ಜನ ಗೆಲ್ಲಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ 10 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಏನೋ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಡೌನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಮೆಚೂರ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೋ, ಏನು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, so I used to be a rebel, Aga. I used to really talk about, but over the time, when you actually see the numbers, cinema is so much to do with economics. ಈಗ ನಾಟಕ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ we will have 300-400 audience, but illi it's so much to do with numbers, and there is an entire industry which lives off it. right from ನೀವೊಂದು ಮಲ್ಟಿಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದಾಗ there is a how much popcorn was sold is also discussed in there. When you play a Salman Khan film, how much popcorn is sold. When you play a Lucia, how much popcorn is sold. So that's how the business decisions are made. Hence, I mean, now I would say that I used to be more on the side of the audience, fighting the industry. Now with time and experience, I'm on the side of the industry. Understood that the industry gives you what you demand. So if your demand for a certain kind of a film is selling that many number of parking tickets and popcorns, then that is what the industry will churn out, because it is a industry which is alive every second and which needs to do its economics. So audience's choice is very, it will be very strange. Lucia du kuda, we have made more name and sort of a legacy and all that than the money. It's not like it made great amount of money. I keep joking that Lucia's entire lifetime collection is Darshan Films parking lot collection. Forget movie collection. So it's that much. That's how little it is in the bigger picture. And which is why you can only do once as a lifetime experience of, later when you know that you have to go back and pay your bills and you have to live your life, you have to subscribe to how those economics are working for you.
ಹೀಗೆ ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ನಾವು ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅಭಿರುಚಿನ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಎ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಾಗಿ ಅಭಿರುಚಿ ಬೆಳೆಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಅಥವಾ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಸರಿ ಥಿಯೇಟ್ರ್ಗಳಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ, ನಾವು ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಎ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಾಗಿ ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆ ಒಂದು ಫಿಲ್ಮನ್ನು ದೇ ಸಿ ಇಟ್ ಅಟ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಎಂಗೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಲೆವೆಲ್. ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಲಾರ್ಜರ್ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಗೋ ಇನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಟು ದ ಪರ್ಸೆಂಟೇಜ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೌ mass film, what they call, and what a content film, this is categorized as content film. So a mass film andaga, where you just go watch for entertainment, they are very dependable audience, because they are saying that ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತು 3 hour ನಂದೇನೋ ಆಟೋ ಪಾರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಾನು 70 rupees ಟಿಕೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಗೋ ವಾಚ್ ಮೈ ಹೀರೋ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್ ವಿತ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಬಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ 70 rupees. But when you make a content film, the audience that you want to reach out, they'll be like, first let me read opinions, first let me see YouTube reviews, now let me see if I can find it on torrents, now let me see if I can find it on Telegram. And then very small percentage says, no, I will go watch it in the theater. So this guy is very dependable. He is like, the talene 70 rupees, 80 rupees, I'll go give it. When you see the cost of making the film, so eventually this person is only saying, I was in a Uber some 6 years ago, and he didn't recognize me, of course, and we were talking, and I was just saying, yav film nodadri? Then I said, U-turn kelidira anta. He said, illa. Lucia film kelidira? Illa. He said, idu ಏನು ಕನ್ನಡ ಸಿನಿಮಾನ ಅಂತ he asked me. I said, ಹೌದು. I still didn't reveal. I said, ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ? ನಾನು ಬರೀ ದರ್ಶನ್ ಸರ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ನೋಡೋದು. ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ಒಂದೇನೆ, ಬೇರೆದೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. But he is so honest. He's paying. No, he's saying, I'm paying this money, I get entertained, I come back. And that is your major population. Now, we can't say that he is entertained. He is feeling a high. That for him, that is what cinema means. So you can't say that is a bad understanding or a wrong understanding of film. For him, that is his truth, and as long as that is business is happening, they will do it, and there's nothing wrong about it. So when you say abhiruchi content, then I would say wake up, stop downloading, pay for Netflix. I know a guy who has a home theater built, spending 10 lakh, but 10 of them share a Netflix password. I'm like, why? You can build this whole thing. You have a 4K projector at home, but you all have a WhatsApp group wherein you share your Netflix password. Why will Netflix come and produce more content if they're not getting enough subscription? So it comes with that responsibility, saying that I'm going to pay and show the business. Then the producer is very simple. Like, I'm a producer. If you tell me, hey, this movie is at least going to give me back my investment with 7.5% return, I will put it. I don't care what film you're making. So
we are running out of time. Any women in the audience with a question? Yes, great. Please ask.
Yeah, it's me. Hi, I must say your movie inspired me a lot for my current research, where I'm trying to explore the idea of alternative commercial mainstream film. So I guess your answer will also help my research questions also. I'm trying to look at this from the context of production houses like Neelam or the other production houses like A24 in Hollywood, etc. So what is the role of such production houses that is trying to break the formula and that kind of reflect certain ethos in this, current times? And will this strike a balance between commercial interest of movie and its artistic exploration as well? So I wanted to know the role of production houses as such.
It is quite huge, but everybody has a breaking point. I mean, I have seen production houses recently, very popular production house, just don't want to take the name for, I met them 2 months ago, I think. Very big name, backed by a very honorable, big person in the country. And I was in their office, nice office. They have a great list of track record. And they were saying that the film that they're releasing in the coming week, if it doesn't work, they'll have to shut their office. And I know that they have been trying to make these films that probably you, me, and half of us here have watched. And it felt really bad that it's not me sitting in Bangalore and thinking about it as like, how do I... It's a big guy backing a production house, thinking that if this film doesn't work, we are shutting this office. And they did shut their office. And they moved on to a much smaller room because they couldn't pay the rent anymore, the way the film did at the box office 3 weeks ago. So the fact is that there are many who keep coming in with some sort of a funding. They bring in some investors and they do make this attempt. But a Marvel always wins. So it's what I'm saying. The Marvel is a very, big canvas, very popular genre film. So the striking the balance happens once, twice, but it's a tough thing. But let's see, now that there are direct to digital releases, wherein sometimes the filmmaker is covered. So if you're spending 10 crores, you're covered that much. The OTT will come and say, hey, take this money, do the film, and give us all rights of the film. Maybe things like this will open up some new voices, but eventually we have to see how this goes. But what I have understood, at least I have been making or in the film industry since 2008, that it's important to accept that the simple thing of demand and supply is always going to, take the precedence and decide what kind of films get made.
ನನಗೆ ಲೂಸಿಯನ್ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನನಗೊಂದು ತುಂಬ ಅನ್ಸೋದೇನೆಂದರೆ, ಈ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಏನು ತೋರಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತಂದರೆ, ಯಾರು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ನಾವು ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಏನು ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋಗಿ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಸೆಟ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂತ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೇಸ್ ಮಿ ಲೈಕ್ ಡೆಮೋಕ್ರಟೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಆಲ್ಸೋ ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಸರಿ ಮಾತಾಡುವಾಗ ವಿ ಟಾಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಟಿಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಐಸ್ಬರ್ಗ್, ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡಾಗಿದೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಸರಿ ಎನಿ ಆರ್ಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಟೇಕ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರಿವಿಲೇಜ್ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಯಾರೋ ಒಬ್ಬ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಹಳ್ಳಿಲಿರೋನು ಒಬ್ಬ ಸಿನಿಮಾ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಥಿಯೇಟ್ರ್ಗಳಿದೆ, ನೋಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ನು ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಗೆ, ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ತರೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಲೈಕ್ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಅ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಾಗಿ ಆ್ಯಸ್ ಅ ಆಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ.
ಈಗ ನೀವೇನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಯಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು. ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಆ ಲೂಸಿಯಾ ಮಾಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಹಾಳು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಸಿಕ್ದವರೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು 5 ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನೇನೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಈಗ ಅದು ನೀವು ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸೀಯಿಂಗ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಫರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ 5D ಓಕೆ ಅದೆಷ್ಟೋ 2 ಲಕ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನೋ 3 ಲಕ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. But what they're not realizing is the storytelling skill took 15 years of training. It took innumerable play shows where I performed to 3 people, 4 people, and the instinct took that many years. So the tool that you're talking, that even, when I did Lucia, it was 5D. Today you can shoot on your phone. With an iPhone you can literally make the film look like you've shot it on a professional camera. But so I'm saying that you have to go back to basics and saying everything is a tool. Your editing system, your phone, everything is just a tool. But the core of a filmmaking is your storytelling. And now that has to come only by experience. That has to come only through trials, errors. Do a film and then you realize that, hey, like for me, I know some things that I would probably do differently in Dhoomam now after 8 months of having made that film. And I made Dhoomam after 20 years of storytelling career, and yet I know that, okay, I think this one I overlooked, or this one I could have made it a little more audience friendly or something. So so I would say it's not about how easy things are. Today, you can make a reel and that reel can be viewed by more people than than the number of people who saw Bahubali. So that one simple reel can go so viral, and all you had to do was something quirky that worked for that moment. And I've seen some accounts where the reels look more professional than a film does. So people have the tools today. So it's really difficult for the filmmakers now than it ever was. Because now we are not, I said it in another session, that you're not competing with other filmmakers anymore. You're competing with the reels. You're competing with, because the audience is now there. They just, the input is coming to them from there. So it's really hard to get that audience. It's like, I have time? Yeah, so like when we write screenplays, the general rule is to bring in the plot twist or the big change on the 20th minute. And first few minutes you do this, 10th minute you do this, 11th minute you do this. But today the audience mind is getting trained to reject something on the 3rd second. They just swipe up. If it doesn't hold them, the reel doesn't hold them up. But what we're not realizing is that it is subconsciously training the mind to reject something. So I'm sure you all have OTT accounts. I'm sure there are easily 90% of the thumbnails that you've clicked on where you didn't finish the film. You probably also spend a lot of time just looking through thumbnails. And also, when you start a film, it's very hard for you to hold on and watch the film entirely. Because the option of pausing, the option of saying, hey, it's not interesting. But it takes a storyteller 15 minutes sometimes to take you to that place. You're not giving him that space. So now when I have these meetings with OTTs or anyone who says, let's do a web series, the first thing is, what are we doing on the first minute? What is your script, the first page? And that is the new way of writing now. Like, how is that 1 minute going to make him sit for the next 30 minutes? So to your question, I would say forget the tools. That's going to keep coming. Much cheaper tools are going to come. Go back to the core of what I'm saying, what I'm writing. And it doesn't have to be short with big equipment. All you have to do is that thing that you've written has to be so, something like in Lucia that happened, that today, forget everything. What connects is his innocence, what connects is loneliness, what connects is the love story. And all those things connect to the audience. When an audience is watching and is feeling something, it's not because of crowdfunding. They're feeling it because of what the character is going through. And I need to learn that, and we all need to constantly go back and learn that.
On that note, I know everybody has a few more questions. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. So we can end the session formally now. And if Pawan has the time, you can... outside. Yeah, we'll maybe talk outside. We'll have to end the session formally now. Before we do that, how many people have come here for the first time? Here, yes. Thanks to Pawan. We have new audiences. So all I have to say is thank you for taking the time, and thank you all for making the journey and coming here and participating in this celebration of that special moment in time for all of us as audiences. Thank you, Naveen, for playing the foil in this conversation. Unfortunately, we had lined up several videos, but of course you can go back and watch them on YouTube. Yes, so you have met Maker, and please send us more ideas that you have. You can write to us. Our email and everything is available on our website. And good night, everyone. Thank you, and we'll meet you outside.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and it's amazing that after 11 years we're still talking. Yeah, good night, have a great time, and thanks for making me and my work still relevant, and, and we'll see you outside. Yeah, thanks.